Breaking news, Fidel Castro, age 90, has passed away. This is breaking news right now.
He was also a very divisive figure, and he has recently sort of faded into the woodwork. Raul Castro has taken over, and he really is. Raul Castro really has been running the day-to-day government, and Fidel has not. Fidel has been doing really is writing, trying to be the conscience of Cuba more than the ruler of Cuba. But he remains, to his death, a very important figure. And while he was, because of his nationalism, because of what he meant to the people, he meant that Cuba would not be dominated by the United States, even though the United States is so big and so close.
And so, Jim, looking at this, and we're looking at the historic footage of Fidel Castro, and you can't help but think about his legacy after all these years. What do you think will be the word of historians when they look back at the life of Fidel Castro?
Well, I think he'll be the most prominent figure in Cuba, perhaps only overshadowed a little bit by Jose Marti, who was the author who, in the 1900s, wrote about Cuba becoming free. But Fidel Castro changed the course of Cuba. He changed the way Cuba was. In 1959 and 1958, Cuba was pretty much a satellite of the United States, run by the United States, run by the United States mafia. All those casinos and all that lively dance footage we see of Cuba, that was all run by the mafia, the United States mafia. And Castro came in and he cleaned that out. And not only did he do that, he's revered in his country, in Cuba, for changing the class system. There was a huge class system in Cuba up until then. And the peasant class didn't know how to read or write. Most of the people in Cuba didn't know how to read and write in 1960. And in fact, they didn't have medical care of any kind. And they didn't have electricity outside of Havana. So Castro came into power. He spent money on those things. They have a very good education system. They have a very good medical system. And they have electricity all over the island. Do they have all the freedoms that the United States have? They do not, and the people there want those freedoms, and that's why many of them will be happy to see Castro gone right now, but it will not change his place in history.
Now, I imagine a lot of people will be celebrating that news without question. We just saw a few moments ago video of Raul Castro making that announcement just a few short moments ago that Fidel Castro, the longtime leader of Cuba, has died at the age of 90. Our Jonathan Carl is also on the phone with us. And Jonathan, I mean, Cuba and Castro have been such a fixture in foreign policy for the United States. This is certainly going to resonate in Washington.
Absolutely. I mean, Fidel Castro is the nemesis of so many presidents. When you think he survived 11 different American presidents, each of them since Kennedy saw Castro as an enemy of the United States, as an abuser of human rights. He was somebody who loomed large because he was an enemy just 90 miles from the shores of the United States. Somebody who was allied with the Soviet Union during the Cold War.
But he did so much good, too. He fought for peace, helped the poor.
Incredibly large in a large chunk of American history going back to 1959.
Yeah, and Jonathan, with President Obama deciding to try to warm relations with Cuba and with the Castro family after all these years, how much hope is there in Washington that Raul Castro might make some real changes that the United States would welcome?
Well, there's not much hope from U.S. policymakers that there would be significant change under Raul Castro, but there certainly has been a major change in U.S. policy that was initiated by President Obama. Something he went a place that again no American president since Kennedy really thought of going, of reestablishing relations, reopening an embassy in Cuba. It's the stated goal of President Obama to lift the trade embargo on Cuba. But Raul Castro has effectively been leading Cuba for a decade now. And
You want to see something sad? Fidel Castro passes away, but look what CNN's talking about.
There's been a silence. There's been a sense of sadness.
Oh, good, they've switched it
Too
finally.
many tears that perhaps will come later.
A few minutes
Whether they're
ago,
real
when they were making the
or
announcement
people,
nationally,
being told by the government
here in
to
the
show,
U.S., they were showing
their,
the show the
sadness that
70s.
Fidel Castro's passing. For many of the young people here, they never knew him as president. He's been out of power for 10 years, out of sight. For 10 years, and certainly in his last years of rule here, did not lead the active life. Fidel Castro, at the beginning of the revolution, was a man who drove his own Jeep, shook people's hands, gave speeches all the time. Sometimes it would last for hours, so there was really no escaping Fidel Castro for many, many years. And in the last years, he was somebody who was out of sight. I recently, just a few months ago, talked to his son, and he said his son, Antonio Castro, is a photographer, takes all the pictures that we usually see of Fidel Castro. He said his father didn't want any monuments to him. That he wanted to at least project the image of sort of a simple scholar and revolutionary. But of course, that is going to change. We expect the government here to celebrate what they call the historic leader of the revolution. And Fidel Castro, we often joke with all the rumors of his death and all the plots over the years against him, that he said, the day I die, nobody will believe it. And to a certain degree, that has been the reaction here. People have been told so long that Fidel was on death's door, that he wouldn't last much longer, and he always seemed just to survive. He was a great survivor, as many people refer to him, and he always just seemed to endure. And now that his life has ended at the age of 90, there is something of a stunned silence, a hush over the city of Havana. It's late here. I think many Cubans will wake up with the news and will certainly feel that they're living in a different Cuba.
And Patrick, I want to read this information that just came across our news desk from Raul Castro. It reads, and not verbatim, but the following: with profound pain, I announce that Fidel Castro died November 25th at 10:29 p.m. It goes on to say that his remains will be cremated in the early hours of tomorrow, Saturday, November 26th.
So he passed away just about, just a little under 3 hours ago, Cuban time.
Patrick,
Yes.
ready to move very quickly on this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have had certainly many occasions over the years. Even when Fidel Castro fell ill, he was on death's door. He himself said that he did not expect to survive this long, that it was not his wish. In his some of his last televised appearances, he said he did not expect to live much longer, but he had an appearance just last week where he met the president of Vietnam. In recent months, you would see world leaders come and visit him at his home near Havana, not far from where I am right now, a heavily guarded area. And he kept this up.
Okay,
recently
YouTube world. Well, there you go.
Quite a great frequency.
The great
of leaders
survivor
coming
has
to meet
passed
with him,
away
talk
at
with
the
him.
age of
He couldn't
90.
stand at that point, but he still was fairly clear. He would still
Please
engage in
give
very
this
lengthy
video a
conversations
thumbs
about
up,
any number of world
and
topics. His son,
even though I know
Antonio
it's a sad
Castro, recently
event,
told me that,
and I send my love to all of you.
he
Lots of
still
kisses.
managed to read quite a bit, was on